All right, we hope you found that interesting. It's definitely a good way of introducing you to the game. White Shorts is a very complicated game. I know a lot of people maybe struggle in like the first game or two, so hopefully that helped to alleviate some of the questions you may have had. And for those of you who are familiar with Weiss, again, it's always just nice to refresh the rules. But for now, round one is just about to start. All the players are at their tables, and I think we have the deck on stream ready. So for round one, we're going to be showing you Bang Dream versus Hololive. These are two decks I think we would agree are definitely up there. Maybe not say the best decks, but two decks that we wouldn't be surprised to win. But at the same time, I think you'll agree with me, Leon, in that these are two unconventional builds, as we would say, right? Like when you see a Bang Dream versus Hololive, you have two very specific combos in mind. Like you kind of imagine what the decks are going to look like, and these are not that.
Yeah.
So, like I think should we just jump into the deck list? I think we should jump into the deck lists, right?
Yeah, let's just go.
Yep. So I think first we're going to be looking at Avis. I think some of you may know her in the community as Taya. She is the person who runs the Weiss Tea Time blog. Very well known content creator in the community. So it's good to see her. Get her off on stream, show her off, give her a bit of a shout out. So she's gonna be playing Bang Dream. So let's have a look at this. And so yeah, this is Choice Door Bang Dream, which when you hear Bang Dream in the current day and age, you usually think Choice Gate with Morphonica, right? But no, here we see Taya is playing the door combo with the Rimi. What do you make of this?
Yeah, so uh, if you get to know Taya for a bit, she basically is always scheming for the next good deck to build. And in her words, that's like a chaotic deck. But I think I actually really like this combo, you know? The choice combo at level 1 allows her to mill her deck quite a bit. Um, that's usually something decks struggle with. Normally you would see an 8 pants build, right? That also just gets a little bit of selectivity, but with this deck you can just speed through your deck. Reach the second deck as soon as possible and just fill your hand up while you do it. I think this is really great. Also, the level 3 is just a really good choice for trying to actually finish your opponent.
Yeah, like the combo is when it attacks, if you have the door combo in play, you can pay one and discard the reverser level 0 Sire. Sorry, the when it's reversed, top three add one Sire, which is already a good card to begin with, and it's deal one damage twice. So it kind of reads like Marine from Hololive, except now you have all of the efficient engine of Bang Dream to go with it in the form of the level 3 Arisa, the 2/1 Bread event, the level 0 Euchinus Clock Searcher, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, no, I think it's definitely something that may have gone under the radar, but I can definitely see where she's going with this. I believe in it. But of course, she's not the only person in this game. We do have her opponent to look at. So we're going to be seeing Oofmi from the US, and he's going to be playing Hololive. Now, Oofmi actually just made top 8 of the AO stream. So, shout out to this absolute beast of a man who decided to go, nope, I'm not content with just top 8ing in AO. I'm going to stay up and play in AU as well.
Yeah.
So he's going to be playing Gate Door Hololive. And again, when you say Hololive, you expect a Coronet level 1 combo or Kanata level, Stock Soul combo into Marion. But my, Ufmi here has chosen to go with the memory engine in the form of Botan, which is something that I think this is one of my first times actually seeing it being played.
Yeah, that's true. That's the same for me as well. But you know, seeing this card just gives me a special feeling. As an old SAO player, I really like this sort of profile. Um, what I just said is basically old SAO players might know the card Zekken, that on attack can pay a cost and then search 2. And this is not the same. So this Botan basically needs to reverse its battle opponent and then is able to search 2 cards, 2 characters, I might add. Puts 1 into the waiting room and 1 into hand. So you can set up both things, and it also plays the Marine that you would expect from a normal Hololive build, which of course then allows with the climax to maybe salvage the other card you milled, or do other shenanigans.
Yeah, and again, just with Bang Dream, he has access to a lot of Hololive's very powerful utility options in the form of, say, the level 0 Aqua, the drop search Miko, the discard one top 4 Fubiki. Yeah, and again, he's got lots of utility at level 1 as well, in the form of the Mel 1/0, which can gain a stock on attack, and the Polka, which can make a board out of nothing. And again, they're playing both Taya and Ufmi are playing very similar top ends, where it's just on attack, burn 2. It's not a lot, but they're all very slot and cost effective or efficient. So it's very easy to get there, and they don't have to worry too much about setting up their end game, which I really like the sound of. But enough of talking from us. I think the players are ready, so let's jump into the game. Oh, I think we're just waiting to set up. So yeah, so while
Yeah.
we wait for the players to do a little bit last setup, let's talk a bit more. Who do you think is favored at initial glance here? Like just from looking at these lists, what do you think?
So at an initial glance, I like the Bang Dream list a little bit more. Both sets, just like you said, right? They have an insane amount of utility. Both sets, Bang Dream and Hololive, just have these great zero lineups, the level 1 lineups as well. There's so much stuff you can do. But I like the finisher from Bang Dream a bit more because, uh, well, basically every time, dealing 2 times 1 is better than dealing 1 times 2. Um, so I think Taya has a slight edge over Oofmi here, but when you look at level 0, that's probably where Oofmi has the upper hand. Because Hololive's level 0 is just really hard to contest for most decks, because they're just so strong all across the board.
Yeah, you've got the Aqua, which is 3-5 in the middle, and you've got the Miko, which is just 3-5 printed. And you have so many tools to get over the opponent's board, which I think is something that Bang Dream doesn't really contest the board, right? It just makes
Yeah.
zeros and it goes through its deck and goes from there. But I think the players are now indeed ready, so we'll be able to jump back into the game and see how it goes. So we see here, I think these names are reversed, but I would imagine that Avis with the Bang Dream deck is playing with the Bang Dream mat, and Oofmi with the Hololive playmat is playing the Hololive deck. So just to
It's
remind
just
everyone that it is going to be Oofmi on the left and Avis on the right, contrary to what you see at the top of the screen. And I think they're just seeing who is going to be going first or second.
maybe it's also just the biggest smoke screen of all time. And
They're
Taya is
playing with
just
each other's
actively
supplies. Yeah.
yeah, they're just actively disguising as the other player.
Some huge brain stuff. So there we go. We got the names fixed, and now the names correspond to the right cameras. I was going to give a quick shout out to Oofmi there. He's playing with the IMA playmat. She's happens to be my personal favorite from Hololive, so a little bit of bias, but I'll definitely be rooting for him in this game.
All right, let's see who goes first here. What we see the players do here is one
Yep.
thing that is usually being done online is Taya plays 2 cards here, or Avis plays 2 cards here, and one of them is rested, one of them is standing, and then one of the cards is saying going first, the other card is saying going second. So she's probably letting her opponent decide which card to pick to let them decide whether they will go first or.
Yeah, since you can't do things like rock paper scissors effectively, or sometimes rolling a dice might not be fair. This is one of the better ways of doing it. And you can see also Avis has the 3 piles. You saw Ufmi having it earlier. Since you can't, since we don't have the ability to reach our hands through the monitor and touch people through the internet, this is the best way we have of cutting the opponent's deck.
Yeah.
So Ufmi there resolving an early mulligan. You see he discards the event and a climax.
Also clocking. I think Avis stream might be cut off, freezing a bit. We do see the Minato coming down, the Aqua that you talked about.
Yep, and this is one of the reasons that I think Hololive is favored over Bang Dream, which is that it has a much more powerful going first turn. You have so many good going first cards in the form of the Aqua, you've got so many oversizes. Even though the Miko and the Luna both have on-play effects, they are big bodies just on-play raw printed, which makes them very hard for your opponents to reverse in the early game. Whereas with Bang Dream, its turn 1 plays are a lot less impactful, especially looking at Avis's deck list, where she's not running, say, the Toko runner, the Nanashi runner, or she's not running the Futaba discard to stock. So because of that, Ufmi has a lot stronger quote unquote turn 1.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, feeling a 3.5k turn 1 is just really good, right? No matter what set you play.
Yep.
Alright, so
I think we'll just wait for Avis's camera to catch up. But it looked like Avis attacked into Ufmi and he just cancelled off the top. So this looks like Ufmi's second turn here.
yeah, right. So he did have stock, we just can't see it too well. So he's gonna use the Miko.
Yep, searching for his level 1 combo, pretty standard play. I think the benefit here is, like we said, the Miko is just 3.5k printed, which makes it really good both on turn 1 and going second because you can get the filter and also get a reliable reverse.
Yeah, so putting the card on the screen right now. One thing I want to say is just I really love the artworks that Hololive has. I think it's one of the most one of the more beautiful sets, I think.
Yeah, it's a nice contrast between, say, the CG from the Holo Graffiti series versus these custom printed, made artworks from the illustrators.
Yeah, and especially when we later take a look at the climaxes, maybe um, those are really great as well. All these different artists coming together, forming this set is great.
So down comes
Building,
the second Aqua. So this one
yeah,
won't get the 3k power for being in the middle, but it still has the when it's sent to waiting room effect to add 2 cards to his hand, which is, given that he's cancelled early, it'll also help him get to level 1 faster. And again, like you mentioned, it's just about going through the deck as fast as possible and compressing and thinning out, which is quite nice.
yeah. I
So
mean,
it'd be nice to see exactly what sort of board he's looking to take down here from Avis' side. Again, we'll just wait for that camera to catch up, but he's just going to be attacking, just gaining some stock and setting up. And that's one of the big strong advantages of Hololive is that it's so good at playing almost a solitaire game. It can just build its pieces, set up its engine, and just keep going without really kind of almost disregarding what its opponent is doing.
yeah, and then being able to attack 3 times at level 0 in your second turn already is just strong for any deck, and especially for Hololive that can just do so much with all that stock. So what do you think? Did Avis reach level 1 of that?
In a way, I kind of want her to reach level 1 because given that you know that Hololive is playing an on reverse combo, you might want to try and set up the Toko changer early because it's a one. They're two 1/0s that change out back and forth, and the one that changes during your opponent's turn, which is Morphonica Toko, that gives your board power and also gives you a bit of consistency, and that can maybe help Avis dodge some of the on reverses from Oofmi.
Yeah, definitely. Hmm.
Actually, I'm just also hearing note from a friend of mine, which is that it turns out Oofmi is also a content creator alongside Avis. So gonna give if we gave Avis a shout out for Weiss Tea Time, we're gonna give Oofmi a quick shout out for I think the name is Honest Weiss Schwartz. So yeah, we have round one clash of the content creators.
Ooh, the content clash.
There we go. So it's definitely all on the line here.
That's true. I mean, this basically means that you get more publicity if you win more rounds, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you definitely want to reach tops here. So it's really really important for these players.
Yep. So I think we can't see it, but I'm sure Avis is playing a very complicated turn right now because, as we mentioned, even though Bang Dream has a quote unquote weaker turn one, it has so much utility in the form of the Yukina Clock Searcher. You've got the Choo Choo, which is reveal top, salvage something based on the level of what you reveal. You've got the she's playing the Remy Brainstorm, which gives power. There's also, like we mentioned, the Sire, which is when it's reversed. Look at top 3 and add one. And that profile is commonly called a Rize in the community. And that is a very, very powerful profile. And she has so many ways of. She doesn't have many ways of reversing Ufmi's board, but she does have ways of going through her deck and setting up for that level 1 for when if she gets there, which I think is, like mentioned, is going to make that big difference because unlike Ufmi's list, her level 1 again is very non-interactive. It's just mill my deck, set up some power, and find my combo pieces and quote unquote get compressed, which is compression. I think is one of the weaker spots of Hololive because while yes, it does have a lot of searching and a lot of milling, a lot of its plussing is costed, in the form of the brainstorm, the drop search. Ufmi's playing one copy of the Yuzuki drop salvage. The Aqua herself costs a stock. I think the Botan that goes to memory costs a stock. And while Ufmi does have the Mel to make up the stock, it's quote unquote random. Sometimes it doesn't always hit. You have to reveal a level on a higher character, and so if he's going to be playing a big mid game where he's playing things like the Suisei early play heal to stock, or the 2-1 Watame level assist, he's going to be all that stock that he's generating. He's going to be burning compared to Avis, who's just going to be playing a bunch of costless cards with costless effects and keep going.
Yeah, I definitely agree. One thing I want to add though is that while while Avis's level 1 is kind of uninteractive, it does play the changer. So there's a Toko changer, which I'll try to get it on screen for you guys. Um, Basically, it's a level 1 changer that changes into another level 1. And the first effect lets you salvage something, and the second effect then lets you actually attack with the other character and boost one of your other characters. So there's, like you said, right, there's a lot of combos she can do to to basically solve a puzzle of how to reach certain lanes, right? Of course, at the moment, it's not like she needs to because Oofmi's board is just all 3.5k. But
Yep.
in the later turns, that's definitely gonna get important.
Yeah, and again, just taking another look at Ufmi's list, he's not playing these quote unquote anti-meta choices that we usually see Hololive play, such as the early play Watame that bottom decks on the opponent's characters, or he's not playing the Roboco that on attack gives someone 2,000 like 500 power for each character. So because Avis has chosen not to play the Choo Choo Pario early play package, he you know, Ufmi is not going to have to work as hard to like remove her board, which I think is that's going to swing the tempo in his favor in terms of dynamic, insofar as by not needing to work as hard to remove Avis's board, Ufmi gets to maybe conserve some of that stock, maybe gets to conserve some of that momentum and just play his cards and go for it. And like we say, these two almost uninteractive lists just going past each other.
Yeah. Mm, so what do you think is happening right now? I think he's counting something.
I think I've just been told by the judges that we're doing a quick pause on the game
Hmm.
while we wait for these camera issues to be sorted out. So we'll give it a few minutes, and if we can't sort out, guys, we might have to move to a different table and show you guys a different match. That's unfortunately halfway through, but we will see. Just bear with us for just a moment.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, just reiterating what they are saying, which is we are currently sorting out Avis's camera. Please stand by. Please hold on for a moment.
Maybe if you
But
want, we could talk a bit about the set breakdown we have for EU.
yeah, so I think we've just been told that unfortunately we aren't allowed to show you the graphic. There's a nice little pie chart, but we can tell you the numbers. So Leon, why don't you read that out for everyone?
Yeah, sure. So we have 93 players who registered for today, and out of those 93, 28% are actually playing Hololive, which is the first place for representation. Then there's 19% playing Danmachi, so the second place of representation, and then it starts to fall off quite a bit. We have Mushoku Tensei with 13%, and then Bang Dream with 9%. And then the other two most played sets are Ruby and Tokyo Revengers, both at 6%. So I think that's like 5 people. And then there's all the other sets you might imagine: Fate Grand Order, Slime, Sword Art Online. There's even an Attack on Titan in here, so
Yeah.
we might see the return.
Yeah, the distribution is definitely not as diverse as it was at Springfest or the previous BRO, but I think we're definitely starting to see the English metagame shape up a lot more. I think a lot better insofar as the good, like it's very obvious what the good decks are, and the gaps between say the tier 1 decks and the tier 2 decks are definitely starting to shrink. Right, things like Slime, Fate Grand Order, Goblin Slayer, Ruby. The fact that people are still choosing to play these shows that even though they might not be the best decks, they are still very good and playable decks, which I think is quite interesting. And I think two things I particularly want to highlight here, and one is being despite it being a relatively new set, the high representation of Dan Machi, which we were talking about this earlier, is that Dan Machi is very, very good at dismantling standby decks. And so, given that Mushoku is one of the most popular decks in the format, given it made 3 of the top 8 slots at AO, it's not surprising to see it being so heavily played.
Yeah, I
And
think it's
then,
kind of ironic that you have this anti-standby deck, which is played more than the actual standby deck.
yeah, it's quite interesting, especially see like how would Danmachi fare against, say, a regular deck such as Coronet Mary from Hololive, or maybe Dual Lanes from Tokyo Revengers?
Yeah.
These decks that aren't trying to maintain their board at all times. Um, and the other thing I want to point out here is that we have 3 players on Fate Grand Order, but we have absolutely 0 on the original Fate series, which that deck was slated to be one of the most popular, one of the stronger decks during the Springfest season. What do you think happened to make it fall off like that?
That's a very good question. I think one of the reasons must probably be availability, right? A lot of the cards you need for the good Fate deck you want to play, which is a Heaven's Feel with some cards from the older sets, they're pretty hard to get, and I think also Heaven's Feel is hard to acquire for most players. So I've heard from a couple guys that they really want to get the deck, but just don't seem to find the cards anywhere they can trade for them. And I think that's probably one of the reasons. And the other is that these new sets are also just so strong that maybe you just take the easier way, right? If you can get the cards for a newer set that can do it just as well or maybe better, then you're probably gonna get those, right?
Yeah, maybe that's why Hololive is being so heavily represented, because everyone knows Hololive is going to be a very popular title, so it
Yeah.
was maybe opened a lot, and so it became a lot easier to acquire the cards, which is. And again, like we were saying at the beginning, there are so many different builds for Hololive. You have Coronet Marine, you have Rushia top end, you have Kanata in the mid game. You're seeing Botan here. There are some other level 1 options such as Pekara, IMA. There are other level 3 options such as Nene or the Coco as well, top end. There's so many different options, and it's the fact that they are all viable in some way, shape, or form. I think is really interesting. It gives people, they can either choose their favorite character, or they can just choose whatever suits their play style. And people will say like, "Oh, I think Kanata Marine is the best build," but we're seeing other builds like do relatively well. Like, for example, again, Oofmi, who's playing Botan Marine, he made top 8 in AO. Or again, like again, as another anecdotal evidence, I was playing Coronet Marine at my local shop challenge last week, and I went undefeated. So, and like those options, I think are definitely healthy for the game, and it makes, in a format like BRO where it's open deck list, it's really interesting to say like, okay, well I know what my opponent is playing, but in something like an online event or an in-person event, you sit down, your opponent say discards a Suisei for the early mulligan. You say, okay, he's playing Hololive, but I don't see any climaxes. I don't see his level 1 combo. I have no idea what he's playing. Is he playing on reverse? Do I need to deny reverses? Or is he playing like IMA or Marine or Kanata? Well, I don't care about on reverses, which I think is very interesting to see. So we're just getting communication from the production team. We are going to be looking for a new game to stream. So the players will be continuing their game. You'll only be seeing Oofmi side. Avis's camera is still frozen. So bear with us for just a moment. We'll cut back to 2 of us. We're going to be looking for a new game, so just bear with us while we jump into another game. So sorry about that, everyone, but these things happen. It's an online event. You can't expect all technology to work all the time. We'll never truly get to see whether or not Avis got to pull off her level 1 combo.
But we will definitely hear about it in the later rounds, I think. We're gonna look at the scoreboard later today, right?
Yep, definitely.
One thing I want to add is you quickly asked the question of how does Danmachi fare into decks that don't care as well into board as Standby does? And from my experience playtesting against Danmachi quite a bit, I think personally that Danmachi just really struggles with playing against a deck that just presents a 1001 soul climax every turn and has a good finisher. So I would expect Danmachi to be unfavored against Hololive or stuff like Tokyo Revengers, even though Tokyo Revengers does only attack twice, but it still has a great finisher, and Tokyo Revengers finishes you from level 2 really, really consistently. So I think Danmachi is really, while really good at denying standby and just breaking boards, struggles a lot with decks that just don't care at all about the board.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, is that while it does have a lot of milling in the form of all those events, it has a lot of selection, it doesn't actually do that much to further its own game plan. Like if we look at Danmachi's finisher in the form of Hestia, it's a very slot efficient, resource efficient finisher, because Danmachi's spending all of its time in the mid game, replaying its events, searching for its pieces, remaking its level 1 combo. And so that's kind of what kind of I think holds it back against decks like Hololive and Tokyo Revengers that are just trying to compress and set up these, quote unquote, unfair game states.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I'm not sure. I think. Hmm. I'm actually not sure. I think Damachi is a really strong deck, and I don't want to like discredit it or anything, but it does have some weaknesses. Like,
Yeah,
while it does present power every turn, like you said, in the mid game, it's really preoccupied with just doing its stuff. Sometimes there's this great card, right, that we're probably gonna see later if we watch a Damachi match, that basically makes it so that your one event that costs stock does not cost stock anymore. But while that effect is really strong, uh, rightfully so, sometimes if you actually want to pay out the stock, you might just not be able to, since once you have that card on board, it's really hard for you to actually pay out that stock. So that's the beauty of card games, right? There's not really a perfect strategy. There's always a small crack that your opponent can try to abuse, and it's just like the different builds that you were talking about with Hololive is it's something that only really occurs in card games, right? You have
yeah,
all this expression of building your own deck and building the stuff you want or building a strategy you want to play, and your opponent in turn, like you said, needing to anticipate what he's gonna do for. I think that's the beauty, really.
yeah, exactly. And one of the things that I particularly like about the current Weiss environment is how simultaneously how focused decks are, while also having room for more tech options. Like, for example, if I'm saying I'm playing Hololive, my focus is going to be, for example, Kanata into Marine. So I'm going to be playing four of all the Kanatas, four Marine, and so on and so forth. But then you have all these one-offs like the Watame, you've got counters, things like some level zeros at a one-off, and again, you're looking at Dan Match, you've got four Bell, you've got four Hesse, you've got all the important stuff. And then you have one of, say, the level 3 Bell that removes stuff from the board, or one copy of the Hestia that's just an extra healer, just for those situations. And if we look back to, say, like, 2015, 2016, decks are like, the only one offs decks would play would be things like changes or
Yeah,
assists or climax swappers.
yeah,
And so, it's a combination of this freedom of expression combined with, you know, utility is so much stronger now that you can afford to do more with your deck, and I think that's really awesome to see.
yeah. And there's so much more selectivity that you can actually afford to play more one-offs as well. So you have in some decks more than others, of course. For example, Mushoku Tensei as a card that you can clock one from hand to search any character from your deck. And because of that card, that doesn't even cost stock, you can just get away with running like 5 or 6 different one-offs. It's actually great. I love it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of one of the factors that leads into how good a deck is in the current modern environment, right? Which is, how much can it get away with doing things? Because one of the interesting things I've always found about the Weiss paradigm is that different decks have different axes of game plan, and they all perform differently. Like, standby decks are trying to do one thing, stock compression decks are trying to do another thing, and then you have like aggro decks that's just trying to, like, outburn and out soul damage your opponent. And you have to approach all three of them in very different ways. Like, for example, Dan Matchy is never like Dan Matchy never expects its board to survive cross turn. Like, it's expecting all its bells to
Yeah,
die and for it to use events to get them all back again. Whereas something like Mushoku is expecting none of its characters to leave the board, so it can spend all of its resources on filtering its hand for its endgame pieces and its counters and all these, like, say, tech options that it has access to. And then something like Hololive, again, isn't expecting its board to be reversed, but can easily get it back. And if its board survives, it then turns that into compression. And the way you beat these are all completely different. Like, sometimes you need to play a stock swap event, or sometimes you need to just play like an anti-change bomb, or sometimes you just need to ignore what they're doing and just slam a big climax and
yeah,
swing.
yeah,
And how easily your deck can transition or rotate to these, is what determines how good a deck is.
yeah, definitely. And like you said, I think the current metagame, the current environment that we have in English Vice is just great. There's so many decks nowadays that can just play a lot of utility and get away with multiple strategies. And it's not like in the early days where if you played Attack on Titan, you had this one strategy. I mean, the old Attack on Titan,
Yep.
not set two. Um, sort of online, mostly advanced strategy until Ordinal Scale came out, and they got the standby and the Link Strike combo and stuff. And nowadays, sets just come out and are just they have all these good cards, right? There's not many slots that I would consider redundant in a set, and they no matter what you're looking for, if you're looking for flavorful cards, if you're looking for strategizing cards, if you're looking for good cards, I think nowadays every set has those, and personally, great.
Yeah, and it's almost kind of scary to think that there are, set design has evolved to a point where you look through the cards in a set and you're like, oh wow, this is a profile that I would have played four of back in 2017,
Yeah, yeah,
2018, and now it's like, oh, maybe I put in one
yeah.
of. It's like super weird to see, how her paradigm has evolved, and
Uh,
that's I think that's what makes the game so exciting to always come back to, because no matter what it is, you're still, even though it's the same game, it's always changing. Like it's never just the same stuff with a different skin or flavor.
yeah, that's really the great thing, right? I think for Vice especially, what is so good about Vice Force to me is that you can buy a set and then just years later still play it, and while it might have fallen off in power compared to the newer sets, it'll still work, right? In a bubble, it will still work.
Yeah,
So for me, who has the old decks built or still built, sometimes I play them and take them to a local tournament, and then be like, okay, maybe this is not a good matchup. But sometimes I get really good games, and then I'm just feeling the nostalgia, right? I'm right back where I started, and I think that's honestly perfect that you can get away with buying a set and then playing it years later, just because maybe either they got a new set and they got some new cards, or they just maybe they only had one set, but it's still decent, right?
yeah. Oh, I think we have fixed the camera issues. There we go. So the players are
Oh,
back. So as you mentioned, we were saying, like, did Avis go to level 1? We can see right there, the tri-lane level 0 from Oofmi did indeed put her onto level 1, and she was able to put forward a double combo with the change in the back row, to pump the front row. And now Oofmi is fighting back with his level 1 combo. So I think just before we cut away there, you saw Oofmi resolving his Aqua level 0s to find his pieces. And now we see the double Botan ready to reverse those Tokos.
right. And I think we do have a small hiccup with the names again.
Yep.
So
So now
this time it's
the cameras are reversed again. Yeah. So now it's Avis on the left and Oofmi on the right. But
yeah, but it's not
yeah, I
gonna
think this
stop
is
us from enjoying this.
this is a really strong position for Oofmi. He's only on level. He's only got his level 1, 2 damage. He's got his combo up. He's got targets to reverse. He already has one card in memory. He's just ready to go. But then at the same time, if you look at the board, this is what we were saying earlier, where Hololive needs to spend its stock to do things, and Ufmi has 0 stock. Whereas Avis, she only spent 1 stock on the Yukina Clock Searcher, and so she still has 3 stock. She's been she milled 10 cards with her combo, so she's setting up for that really, really strong second deck compression. Whereas Ufmi's milling is all when the characters go to the waiting room. So the Fubuki is on death, the Aqua was on death, and I think we saw him use 1 Miko, but that's not that much. There's no brainstorms coming out from Ufmi. There's no Subaru on the board. So his ability to control his deck size and deck state is a lot, not shakier, but not as strong as Avis's.
Yeah, I think Avis is probably fine with the current board state, since she got her climax combo off, right? She filled her hand. I think it's looking pretty thick, probably 6, 7 cards there. So even if the board gets reversed here, they probably won't care as much. However, yeah, Oofmi is gonna get the reverses off. So the deck is also looking really slim for Oofmi, so he's probably gonna refresh soon. Which is also great, right? Refreshing at level 1 is just something you want when you play a deck like Hololive, since you just power through it really fast.
Yep, he gives you all the selection and all the access to the cards that you need. Of course, again, the downside being Ufmi is not setting up any like clock compression, any stock compression. Whereas Avis, I think Avis can easily expect to cancel 1 or 2 times this turn. So she'll start her turn at 1.4, 1.5,
Yeah.
and then she'll just get a turn of like swinging 3. Maybe she has to rebuild the board, attack 3 times, but then she'll just be able to reset and refresh with a lot of high compression compared to Oofmi, who's arguably might lose his board on the swing back.
Yeah, and there's also one card I want to mention here is the Rausch und Craziness 2 Minato Yukina, the level 0 on the third spot in Avis board. Oh, it's gone now. I wanted to add it. Oh, there we go. Basically, this card allows Avis, if she cancels on that lane, to just return the Yukina to her hand. So she doesn't even lose the card, even though it's a level 0, which is really strong.
Yeah, worst case scenario, she plays it again and gets another search, which again could be insane, or it's one less card going back in the refresh. So I think I really like this position she set up for herself. It's a shame that we didn't get to see what she added with her level 1 combos. We have no idea how ready she is for level 3, which again I think is very important because as we discussed, she doesn't have the Choo Pario combo in the mid game. So her level 2 is pretty much just spam level 1 combo again and hope it gets there. Like she doesn't have an early play. She's just she has counters, but the the Nanami combo doesn't exactly get big during the opponent's turn. I think she's just looking to just replay these zeros and just get a lot of free stock during her mid game.
Yeah, I think especially against the Botan combo, which reaches, he does have the condition, which is 1 card in memory. So this card alone, Will of Climax, is going to reach 8,000 power. So there's no real way you're gonna get over that with the Nanami combo. The Nanami is 6k with the back row, but yeah, there's even if you play a backup there, you're just gonna get a double crash. And also worth noting is that Avis isn't even playing a backup, since she probably knows it doesn't even make that much sense to try and save the board, since that's not her game plan, right? She just wants to mill through her deck, collect some resources, maybe change a bit, and then at level 2, do the same thing again, and then at level 3 just finish the opponent.
Yeah, like at most she has the Tae counter, which can send the opponent's character to memory. But again, that's just playing right into Ufmi's game plan, so it's unsure whether or not she's going to want to use that. And the thing to note here is that Ufmi doesn't have an exactly amazing mid game either. He's got the Watame and the 2-1. He's got the 1 copy of the Watame early play, and then 3 copies of the Suisei early play. But these don't get massive power during the opponent's turn, and you can see that Avis is playing 2 copies of the anti-change Sayo as well. So whether or not he's going to want to commit those is again up in the air. So like you mentioned, for both players, I think their mid game is just going to be accruing resources. Ufmi's probably going to go back, change into his Mel engine, the 1-0 Mel, while Avis is just, like we said, it's going to keep playing zeros and just keep trying to mill her deck through.
Yeah. So we are still waiting for the players to continue their game, I think. Oh. Oh, okay.
Oh, it looks like Ufmi's the one who's frozen now. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. But at least that means both the content creators get equal amounts of screen time, right?
Yeah, they both get their chance in the spotlight.
All right, so Ufmi is attacking here.
Yep.
Probably from the way that Avis is handling, he's probably searching for his Botan targets right now. What do you think he's gonna search here, Ben?
I think given what we said about his mid game, I would assume he's going to be searching for at least a Mel, maybe a Subaru. He has so much other utility at his level 0 lineup that he probably doesn't need to search for an act ability to use the Mel. He just needs to have the Mel in hand, and then one of his many acts can get there. Or if he wants to be really greedy, I think he could search for the Polka, which can pull back a cost 0 from the waiting room, which not only gives him more memory, but will also lets him reuse as combo maybe if he just wants to maintain the hand advantage game instead.
Yeah, personally, I think the Polka is a really good target here.
Yeah.
Which might be because I'm greedy, but
Of course,
I
the thing
think
to
this is
remember
great.
though is that the Polka does cost stock as opposed to Mel generating the stock. So he's gonna end this turn on 3 stock, and then if he searches for a Polka and then plays Polka next turn, he's gonna be playing a stock to do something else, and that's gonna cause not issues, but because Marine is basically a 1 stock finisher, but it means that he's not going to build up that compression like he normally would expect to otherwise with say the Mel or with the Subaru.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he doesn't need much stock for the Marinade, but yeah.
Oh, and we're back. Hey, there we go. Finally,
Oh,
both
let's
players
go.
moving.
Let's go.
So we see here that he's actually searched for this fourth copy of the level 1 combo, which I think is that's probably the it's greedy, but it's less greedy, I think.
Oh, he also has 3 on board now.
Yeah, so I think it's like I think searching for the fourth combo there signals to me that he might have another gate climax in his hand.
Yeah, it's very possible.
But
Um,
Avis is just taking all the damage here, which is I think not ideal for her either.
yeah, he also has the morning race Botan in the back row. So if he wants to do a little bit of more memory compression, maybe needs to mill next turn, he can use that. But as you said for the polka already, this also costs stock. So he's gonna have to see if he wants to use that next turn or maybe keep it there for another turn.
Yeah, that's kind of I think the one quote unquote downside to the Mel in this particular list is that Matsuri brainstorm that he's just searched for there is his only costless way of using an act to give Mel the effect. But I think searching for the Matsuri there again probably tells me that he might already have a Mel in his hand. So his next one's probably gonna be like Mel combo something else and just go for it.
Yeah,
But
that's
I
very
like what he's
possible.
done here, which is I don't know if you saw earlier, but on his first two Mel Botan combos, he searched for one of his pieces and then he milled a 0 from his deck, which is just to increase the number of soul icons left in his deck to increase the number of damage he's doing. So maybe he was like trying to push Avis to level 2 here so that she doesn't get an extra turn of farming resources because maybe he knows that her deck is so much better at generating those stock and hand compared to his.
Yeah, and he is already looking at the 3 stock that Avis has on board, right? So he
Mm-hmm.
does know that with the big hand, maybe she doesn't even need to pay stock next turn and can just continue attacking and then build up the 6 stock already.
Yep. So Oofmi there, adding the polka, like we said, the slightly greedy play, and then discarding the Marion, which I think is quite smart because, like we said, his deck is very thin. It's like 3 or 4 cards. So by putting the Marion in the waiting room, he can get it back into his deck next on the refresh and then search for it later so that it's not trapped in the clock like the other 2 Marions we see there are.
Yeah.
But again,
The,
Avis is still, like I said, going to be 1-4, 1-5 at the start of her turn. She's going to be able to mill out because she has so much 0 utility. It's going to cost her virtually no stock, and she'll be able to refresh with a lot more compression than Oofmi will.
yep. So let's see what she does here. She is gonna clock. Of course, that's only gonna bring her to 6 damage in clock, so no real biggie right here.
Yeah, it's ideal numbers there because if she can stay on 6 by the time she refreshes, she'll then take the refresh damage and then have 6 cards in the waiting room to salvage later on, which I think is very powerful. And of course, because we are now midway through August, the new refresh rule has taken into effect. So, for those of you who maybe aren't aware or haven't kept up, the refresh rules have changed at the beginning of this month so that when you perform the refresh action of shuffling back into your deck, you will take the refresh penalty immediately as a interrupt type action, as opposed to it coming down afterwards to so that you take the refresh penalty afterwards. So now the timing is a bit awkward, but I think people have mostly gotten used to it.
Yeah.
You see here,
So
Avis setting up the full combo. Does she have the climax to go with it? Of course, if she does choose the combo here to mill out the rest of her deck, that climax won't go back in, which might hurt her compression. There it is.
just like a good content creator, she always has a climax combo. Let's see. Mm, we if you oof me here, you probably don't want to reach level 2. You probably want to stay at level 1 and build up more resources.
Yeah, I think when Ufmi was looking through his deck earlier, we got a glimpse of one more climax in his deck. So I think he's fairly favored to cancel at least one attack here. Looking through Avis's refresh, I think she's only going back with 6. So she's missing a choice, which is on the board, and I think she's missing a door, which might be stuck in her stock or hand. So this is, again, not super ideal, but she does have the clock compression. She does have she does have some hand. She does have a board, and of course, the only downside is that because Ufmi's deck is so low, when these Botans get reversed and they go to the waiting room, they're not going to go in on the refresh,
Yeah.
which means that Ufmi, if he potentially wants to go for another multi-combo turn, those Botans will be in his waiting room to salvage with, say, the Yuzuki or the Matsuri Brainstorm. I think this is even though I would say Bang Dream is slightly favored here, I think Oofmi is probably in the better position, given that he's on lower damage. He's got at least one cancel coming in that he knows of, and he still has access to all of his pieces should he need them.
Yeah, I mean, his only real problem at the moment is stock, right?
Yeah,
So he already has one of the combos in hand. He has a polka. He can get by with just paying one stock for next turn. He might even just don't pay out a stock next turn. He has the back row Botan that he could just move to front row.
exactly. Just attack with it,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
the fact that he didn't search for a Mel with his Botan combo tells me that either he might already have one in hand, in which case, happy days, hunky dory. He just needs to, put down
Yeah.
that Matsuri that he searched for, pump the Mel by 1-5, and then just go for it. So I was mistaken. Ufmi did not have a cancel in the works, but I think he's refreshing with 7 or 8, which is a really good number. And he doesn't have the clock compression that Avis had, but he does have the hand compression, if nothing else. So I think it should work out the same. We'll see whether or not he cancels here. So the first piece of damage goes in, and then after he finishes this cut, like I mentioned, with the new rules, he's going to take the refresh damage immediately, which is a
Just like
Mel,
he
and then he's
does.
going to continue his damage, which
Ooh.
doesn't cancel. So that's really unfortunate. He loses 2 Mels as well. And yeah, like I said, he's going to be going straight to level 2 here, which he doesn't really want to do, but it's not the end of the world, I think. He still has all the resources in hand. He's still able to play a game.
Yeah, he's definitely like not lost yet, right? Uh, Especially with the power that the Mel presents, if he has one in hand. Um, the fact that Avis is not playing backups, of course, really fuels the Mel, since not having much stock right now is just gonna not be a problem at all if he gets 1 to 2 Mels off.
Yeah, and as we said, now that he's refreshed, they are at least one of them is in the waiting room, so he does have some ability to salvage them. But this is just a lot of damage he's taking here. So this good position that I just said he was in, he's suddenly lost it. He's now behind on damage. He's ahead on cards, but he's behind on board and behind on stock. So I think Ufmi needs to really make something special happen here, especially now that Avis has refilled her hand with the combos.
Yeah, that's true. He's even discarding at the end of turn, so she really doesn't have any problem with that now.
Yeah, and this is where we see neither player playing counters is really making a difference here because even if just one counter from Ufmi just to keep one lane alive would have really made a difference.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, starting at level 2, they will play counters, but they're not counters that you just want to play for the power pump.
Exactly.
So I wouldn't expect them to use them, but there's some situations where you might want to back up to either deny your opponent a resource or you want to direct it the next turn.
Yeah, and
There's,
what's troublesome for Ufmi here is that losing his Botans, losing his Mels, he now has to actively choose what he wants to salvage. He there's no way he can get everything without and now he has to pay all that stock just to reassemble a board, which we're seeing him do right now.
yeah.
So down comes the double combo. We see the other gate combo in his hand. The question is, how much more stock does he want to spend to be able to play his game? Assume a brainstorm's going to come down. Yep, there it is. Is he going to try and brainstorm, or does he just want to keep what little stock he still has?
Hmm. He probably has another climax in hand, right? I don't think he wants to brainstorm here.
We've definitely seen it, so yeah, he's definitely playing one. He's just asking powers. I think the Polka can definitely reverse that Toko, and the Botans obviously can 100% reverse the Nanamis. But he's just going to get Power Pump just to be extra safe. Interesting he didn't pump the Polka. I think Polka could definitely have done with the reverse there, but maybe he wants to have the Polkas not crash or trade potentially.
Maybe.
And interesting that he goes with the combo attack here first. Usually you want to leave
Mhm.
your searches until the end of the battle phase. That way, you're less likely to trigger a climax, but yeah, he's just straight away triggered the climax on turn one, which is unfortunate, but it's still going to give him that sort of re-advantage. But
It might indicate that he tried to look for a one-off that he plays. Just minimizing the chance of triggering it before you can actually get to search it.
could be.
We're gonna see what he searches here, so
But the two one-offs I think that would be relevant here would either be the Watame or the Subaru. And I think Watame is not really useful in this situation because, again, it's such a heavy stock cost for such little gain, given that Taya's not playing a massive, a standby engine or the early play Choo Choo. So yeah, he's just gonna search for the Polka. Maybe he's expecting to have another turn at level 2 where he can use Polka to generate a little bit of memory compression and just refill a board. But I think this is starting to be beyond greedy now. Like, if I'm in his position, I would just look at playing, just searching for cost 0 beat sticks that can at least generate something. Maybe, like, say, a Fubuki or the one copy of the Shift Nene that he plays, just to remove some of Avis's board.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Oofmi here, you probably have to. You just have to believe in yourself to not. Oh,
Oh, a double
yeah,
climax triggered. That's
to not play that.
definitely not what you want to see off a refresh.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, he's getting all his pieces back. There's the Nene we just discussed, so at least there's something. But again, at this point, I don't know how much impact it's going to have when he's going to be falling massively behind in damage now.
Ooh, but instead he's gonna look for the anti-change Susei.
Which I think is interesting because Avis doesn't play early plays.
Yeah.
So it's just going to be a blank counter. It's just a 2-5 counter, which, to be fair, it's the only counter he has in his list. So maybe he just wants to defend, say, the Polka lane or something. But yeah,
I think his reasoning here might be that he just wants to pay out that one stock. I'm not sure if
did he
that's.
just trigger a third gate in a row? I think he just triggered a third door in a row because he salvaged the Marion, which
My God.
that's really crushing because again, that door that he just triggered is the climax that you need for Marion's combo. So he's going to need to pay those out, refresh before he can search for them with the Marion's top 3 effect, going into his level 3 turn. And given that he's just triggered 3 climaxes, I don't think his chances of paying them out before the refresh is very high.
Yeah, there's one thing that isn't gonna make it better, is that he did use the revenge polka. So he is gonna leave an empty lane no matter what, since
Yep.
the character spawned by the polka is going to go to waiting room at the end of turn.
Yeah, that open lane is just going to end up being
memory,
more damage
sorry.
for him.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to put that card up on stream. There we go.
Yep, so this is another profile that we've seen before in Slime from the level 1 Ramirez. This surprisingly powerful profile. Like, it generates you board for low cost. It goes to memory, which is kind of arguably a form of compression or reverse denial. Again, the denial of reverse here is not massively impactful because Avis doesn't care about reversing, and arguably here it's going to be a detriment because he wants to leave his board as open as possible. But one of the really cool lines of play that he has in this deck is that if he needs to, maybe he's looking for a specific card like Burst Search or whatever, he can use the Polka to pull back Matsuri Brainstorm or the level 0 Botan to use their abilities from the back row to either brainstorm or go to memory to search and still get a bit of value out of it, even if it's not an attacker, which I've seen people do. It's come off surprisingly well. But one thing to mention, now that he's level 2, he's got a decent mid game. He's comboed again. Is that when you see decks playing the memory engine like this, Oofmi's playing red. I'm surprised he's not playing the early play polka, just the 3-2 early play heal, because again, it's very stock heavy. It costs 2 stock to play it to level 3, but having that massive body on the board that Avis is going to struggle to remove, or Avis is going to have to play into, plus the heal for damage equalization, I think really would have been useful for him here.
Yeah, I think one card that he could use is the Suisei level 3. That he can play if he has 4 or more other characters, and then ditch a card and heal 1 card to stock. However, it is in his clock at the top, so
Yeah.
he probably didn't want to play that.
The other problem as well with the Suisei is that its condition needs you to have 4 more characters on the board, which his hand size is healthy. He can do that, no problem. But sometimes you don't want to commit cards to a board just for the sake of having them on the board for Suisei. Whereas Polka, Polka can be the first card you early play, and that can be, what you need to keep going.
Yeah, that's very true. So you see Avis starting a turn here.
Yep, she uses the Toko in the back row to salvage another combo, which is. So again, like you mentioned, both players are just going to spend their time, instead of like pushing aggro in the mid game, just repeatedly slam climaxes and combo off against each other. And unfortunately for Oofmi, Avis's ability to generate a board and generate resources is pretty much costless. Like, her only stock cost is that Toko in the back row and maybe a brainstorm if she needs it. But things like the filtering from the Choo Choo or the filtering from the Rui, it's completely costless. And she's just
Yeah.
going to be able to swing a bunch of damage. He does get a lucky
Ooh.
cancel on 4. Avis triggered, so it's something. But again, she's going to milling the deck. She's going to be generating that compression. She's generating all that stock. She has arguably just as strong filtering as Ufmi.
Yeah.
And I think
And she just milled 5 clean as well, so didn't mill a climax there. Not too sure about her deck state, but this is really big for Oofmi. Triggering those climaxes yet still managing to cancel, this is what you need here. Otherwise, he would be in a really bad position, but from this, he can definitely recover. Just needs
yeah.
to maybe cancel that last attack as well. But even if he takes it, he's not reaching level 3, so probably fine.
Cancel doesn't come in, so he does fall behind on damage, but his hand is really healthy. But again, the issue here is that he's got 5 stock, 3 of which are climaxes. As much as you want to pay out those climaxes to refresh, that doesn't leave you with a lot of stock to play your late game. And he does need at least 4 stock to do triple Marine, which, if he pays out all 3, if he pays out 3 stock, he's going to finish with 2, attack 3 times, go to 5. It does, he is still like safe in the threshold, but it's not a lot of wiggle room.
Yeah, definitely not. But I think what, like, optimally, what you want to do here is you play your early play Suisei twice, maybe. You go to, if you play it twice, go to 2 stock, like I said, and then basically reach the 5 stock, maybe get a brainstorm off after that, the next turn, and play the Hosho Marine and try to finish. But of course, that also depends on whether or not Avis cancels here or just takes the damage.
Mm-hmm.
He is playing the Polka again, so maybe no early play. He does have a spot for it though. Ah,
Oh,
there we
there it
go.
is. Yep. So he's going to pay out the last of the other climaxes, which is very, very well timed. And he's going to be able to get to heal to stock, which will help him keep up in the damage race. And as well as that, the 2 soul beat stick is very much appreciated as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the early play on screen here if I find it. Great thing
So the
about Her
thing to,
Life is that a lot of the cards are named the same thing. So it
yeah,
makes it hard.
the thing to note here is that Ufmi does have a very thin deck, which is good, but I think even if he brainstorms, he's not going to refresh this turn without combo. And if he combos, that's another climax that's not going back in. So it's really rocking a hard place for Ufmi here, because he either has to spend stock to go through his deck, which is less stock that he has to play as mid game or late game, or he just goes without refreshing, which is going to be a lot of damage that he might potentially take and risk being level 3 next turn. He does have a fairly healthy hand, but at the same time, Tay has also got a very healthy deck state. She's 5 out. We saw her trigger 1, and she's still got quite a few. She doesn't have much deck left either. It's what, 6 cards, of which there's at least 2 in there.
I think she's 6 out actually.
Yeah, so I think no matter what, like if you're Ufmi's shoes, you think, okay, she's definitely got at least 1 cancel here. She's almost certainly not going to be level 3. What can I do? And the combo would be nice, but yeah, he's choosing not to bring, so he's just going to pump the Polka by 1-5 and
So he
slam his
is doing the
climax.
combo. I mean, one thing
I
you
do,
can do is just not search.
yeah, I mean,
Which is
it's up.
combo, right?
So if you want to put the button on the screen, I believe it is up to. So
Yeah,
you can
maybe.
search for 1 and then choose not to discard. I think it is, or you search up to 2, 1 goes to hand, and the rest goes to waiting room. So if he doesn't want to like take too many cards out of his deck, yeah, it's up to, and then the rest goes to waiting room. So if he does, so if he wants
Yeah.
to like keep some cards in his deck just so he doesn't refresh the climax, if he can just search for 1 and then it goes to his hand and then not mill from deck, which could be useful. But we'll see how he plays the rest of this turn. Again, like he's compared to Avis, who has all the hand and all the stock she could possibly need. Ufmi is almost running on fumes here. The fact that he's had to replay his combo 3 turns in a row is, instead of playing for the Mel engine, is maybe not what you want to be doing in this scenario.
Yeah. So you were correct. She had 2 cancels left in deck. And we did see her do exactly that. So cancel
Yep.
twice. Last two cards just got dealt this damage. I don't think Oofmi triggered here. So Avis is gonna end at 2 levels and 6 damage in clock.
Yeah, so she's going to start her turn at 2-6 going into the refresh, which she might take. Like, we know that Oofmi paid out all of his climaxes from stock, so his refresh situation isn't awful. But we have seen Marion burn one twice. We have seen that win the game from 2.5, 2.6. So you know, arguably, if she has faith in her compression, she'll just stay at level 2, generate some more resources, push Oofmi to say 3-1, 3-2, and then go from there. Or if she's feeling aggressive, she could just go for it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what we see here is he has 2 cards left in deck or 3. So he is thinking
It looks
about,
like
yeah,
threes. Yeah, so he mills one, goes down to 2.
yeah,
And I think one of those is a climax at least because he's only got 5 or 6 out. So his refresh isn't going to be awful. The only concern is that if that climax is the bottom card, that's one less climax he's going to be refreshing, and I think he's missing a door, which he needs for the Marine combo. He paid out the 3, so those 3 that were in the stock will go back in to be searched again with Marines on play. But again, it's looking far from ideal for him, I would suggest.
yeah. But he definitely, I think he definitely bettered his position here with the turn before canceling 2 of the attacks, and this turn even managing to play the early play. I think he has done all he could, and he's in a comfortable position. He's not off the hook just yet. Especially if you look at the strong finisher that Avis deck presents here.
Yeah, so Avis has chosen to clock to go to level 3, which I think is a bit interesting because two of the strengths of the Rimi finisher is that one, it's repeatable, and two, it heals, unlike Ufmi's top end Marine, which doesn't heal. So I was going to say Avis could potentially spend a turn at 2.6, playing some cards to the board, swing, 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 take a bunch of damage from Ufmi's Marine combo, survive on like 3-4, 3-5, and then play triple Rimi to heal. But instead, she's just going to go on 3-0, play a bunch of pieces, and then try to go from there, which I think, as you said, we have seen Rimi end games from this position. It's not impossible. And if Avis knows that Ufmi has a climax left in his deck, she could go with the Rimi combo first to do the burn one twice. And depending on that in that way, it doesn't matter what order Ufmi's climax is in. One damage is going to stick no matter what.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I like this from Avis, just personally. But then again, with both of these decks playing a really good finisher at level 3, maybe you're just too scared of dying to the finisher, which is very valid.
Yeah, the argument is that 2-6 versus 3-0, that's 1 point of damage is not a lot when you're dealing with burn 2, swing for 3, burn 2, swing for 3, burn 2, swing for 3. So I definitely see the argument there. It's
Yeah.
just a case of maybe. Well, there's also an argument maybe she just needed the cards. So there, down comes the Rimi, which unfortunately is going to waste their heal.
Yep.
And the issue as well here is that if I'm in Avis's shoes, if you don't win this turn, I would not bank on those Rumi surviving because the Marine is 10-5 printed and gains 2k from the combo. So they're swinging in for at least 13-5
Yeah, yeah.
plus whatever effect. Stock swap is huge though. Good luck, bread. So I think Ufmi's stock is currently clean, and we know that there's one climax left in his deck, which is going to go in.
That's really good for Avis here, yeah. I think there was a line where you don't play the event and instead choose to encore a Remy. But yeah, like we said before, this is a. She probably is contemplating this is a do or die situation. So she just wants to maximize her chances of actually getting to finish her opponent.
Winning this
And
turn. Yeah,
yeah,
I definitely agree with that. Like, I think the problem with paying 3 stock for the Rimi is that that's A, assuming you survive the Marine swing back, and B, you need to find all the pieces to go again effectively.
yeah, definitely. I mean,
So he refreshes clean, and then I think 4 more cards going in because he had 6 stock. Yeah, so Ufmi was what 7 going back in on that refresh, and I think it's not impossible that he may have just stocked a second climax as well. So this situation is now looking suddenly very precarious.
yeah, I mean, if I'm in Ufmi's shoes here, I'd be a little bit scared and chuckling, I'm in danger.
Yeah,
We see the climax come down, so this
does
is
have
gonna
it.
be the turn.
So triggering a door on this attack is great because she can then pay it out with the Rimy, which is very powerful.
Yeah,
Avis salvages the refresh counter there, but she won't have the stock to pay it unless she chooses not to use one of the Rimy combos.
yeah. Which she might or might not be able to decide depending on how the first attack goes.
Yeah, so she's definitely going to pay for that one because she wants to get the door out of the circulation. 2 damage goes in clean.
Yeah.
Oofmi's going
So
to level up.
if this attack sticks, you probably want to use the second Remy. But if this attack
Yes,
doesn't stick, then you could just say, oh, well, guess I'm not gonna use the second one. But it does stick, so
it does take. So she's now in lethal damage because if this attack for 3 had cancelled, the Remy burn 2 plus the attack for 3 wouldn't have been lethal and it would have just been quote unquote a waste of resources. But now
ooh.
that she knows it's all going in, she can just go in 3 damage.
I wonder if she sided. Oh,
Looks
3
like not.
damage. Oh,
That's
and
it.
that's it.
Ufmi didn't cancel, and that's going to be the end of the game.
The creator clash is over.
So there you go. Weiss Tea Time takes it over Honest Weiss Schwartz. Yeah, really unfortunate. I think we saw. Oh, he stopped 3 climaxes off of the stock swap. That
Wow.
is, yeah, that is painful. That's definitely not what you want to see. But
Those
once
buns
again,
definitely didn't
apologies.
give him luck.
Yeah, exactly. So once again, apologies for the minor technical issues. At the beginning of that round, it happens with like online tournaments. There's an infrastructure things that we have to deal with no matter what. But yeah, we got through the end of it, and we got to see, towards the end, some really good play there. Like Avis knowing that she's she's favored. She doesn't need to reach too hard. Her deck is just really good at generating resources. Meanwhile, Ufmi there, we saw that even though I think his deck is very well built, he was playing a little bit greedier. He was spending a lot of stock where he maybe didn't need to. He wasn't keeping his Mel engine in mind, and as a result, he fell behind in damage, fell behind in resources, and when push came to shove, he ended up putting Avis into a position where she could just reach for game. And again, like looking at the whole live list, he could have done the exact same thing. He
Yeah.
has Marines, he has Matsuri, which is also not a stock swap, but a quote unquote force refresh, which again does the same job of decompressing your opponent. So if maybe he had gone to level 3 first and survived, he could have just won the game from 2-4, 2-6 as well. So just a case of the little bit of cancel that got him back into the game maybe ended up being what lost him the game because he wasn't able to be level 3 and burn back. So that yeah, that's going to be the end of round 1. I think it's going to pretty good start to the day. So we're just going to cut to a quick break. We're going to get some drinks, let the players wind down after that, and then round 2 will start in about 5 minutes. So we'll see you all very soon.
Yep.